All right, we are ready for our next talk. And for this next talk, I want to bring on Tomasz from Nethermind to share a bit more about what is happening in the world of MEV and scaling Ethereum. So please give Tomasz a big round of applause.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Carding. Great to see everyone here. I'm trying to find my slides. Oh, right. Oh, wow. It'll be a challenge. I'll have to just look from around the corner. So we talk about the MEV and scaling Ethereum. And it means that we both will talk a bit about MEV, a bit about scaling Ethereum, but mostly we'll speak about how MEV influence Ethereum scaling and Ethereum in general. MEV being minor extractable value, so a bit like on-chain arbitrage, but I'll not be over-defining it. So I would say, well, MEV, the fact that MEV exists, it drives the innovation in the space of L1 performance. So the searchers, MEV searchers, so arbitragers, traders, on-chain market makers, are looking for the fastest ways of simulating different blocks. Fastest ways of decreasing latency for hitting the chain with their trades. Fastest way of analyzing the mempools, and so on and so on and so on. And you know, it gives an opportunity to execution client implementers to think like, oh, someone really wants us to make it faster. Someone comes and like wants to possibly pay, support the teams that try to optimize. And it's great. Like you suddenly start feeling like that race that normally is outside of public goods, the race between the traders building the high frequency trading systems, gets to the execution client implementers and core Ethereum development, and they think like, yeah, let's chase it. The validators themselves, they want to capture more MEV. It gives them more value to the stakers. So if I'm validator operator, if I'm faster in block simulations and I'm faster in attesting the blocks, and I can capture a bit more, like a few bips more on of yield on top of the staked assets, which means that I can win more of the market, which means that I go to the execution layer builders and say, can you make it better for me? Can you make it more stable and faster? And I'm ready to support you and pay and so on. Well, I think that rarely it comes as direct payment, but some kind of reputation and caring and supporting it as public goods is a very important aspect, and that's great to see. Mempool congestions. Well, so obviously with MEV, what we have is like lots of transactions. They go to the space of private order flow, so they escape the mempool. Then you have the risks of what happens if you actually go for the mempool and you keep sending more and more transactions. But I think this part is more of the L2 thing, so I'll talk about it a bit more later. I think I forgot to remove it from here. All right, so let's think about the Ethereum roadmap. The upcoming hard forks on the, I should have mentioned this, like efroadmap.com, I think, or .org. So that website talks about what's coming to Ethereum, and soon we'll have the Prague Electra fork. Or maybe soon is like, there's this optimistic 100 days here, but I think that we could expect it's more like the Q1, Q2 next year. And there is a series of improvements that come to Ethereum, and among them comes the PRDAS, so the further data availability improvements. And you may have seen a lot of discussion around what happens with L1 and the value of Ethereum if L2s take all the flow and stop paying for the Ethereum. Well, I think that I'm always happy when I see that something that is somewhere there on the Ethereum roadmap works very well. Like when people start complaining that transactions are too cheap, that Ethereum doesn't acquire value because transactions are too cheap and too many transactions flow to L2, there's a kind of like 3 years ago, I think we would say, wow, amazing. And with PRDAS, even more of the data availability will be available for the next surge in the demand for the Ethereum transactions through the L2s, while we'll work on many of the problems around L2s interoperability, many of them related to MEV facts. Let's skip. The thing that I told you about, like the execution clients chasing the L1 performance, at Nethermind's team, what we've seen recently in the last 2 or 3 months, the team actually found a few fantastic optimizations to the client that led us to jump like 50 or 60% faster on the block simulation times, or even more like the shortening. So like in the faster, it was say 200% faster. And it means that we started talking about this narrative of the GigaGas. GigaGas meaning that, gigas per second, meaning that you actually can get the execution of the GigaGas of the EVM gas usage within a second of block execution. And compare it to the current Ethereum mainnet, where we have the target for the block size is 15 million gas per 12 seconds. So it's something like something above 1 million gas. So you're targeting something that is 1,000 times faster on Ethereum. However, this is a bit of simplification. We're talking about the processing speed of the EVM, but the storage as well. However, in the actual real environment, production environment of processing Ethereum mainnet, however, with the speeds, the storage processing and the amount of storage and the growth of the state would be quite a challenge. However, we address the like the dreams of many of the L2s, saying, even if you cannot handle that on L1 mainnet, then the L2s will be very happy to take it. And we see the massive improvements on the processing times for the blocks in Nethermind. These are some examples of the nowadays stability of Nethermind, and possibly many other of the execution clients would show you similarly improving charts. And also the average times, latency to process the block, and the how much of the megagas per second you will see. So those little blue dots, and on the right side the scale showing you something between 0 and 1.2 thousand megagas per second. So many of those numbers they actually reach for a single block, the gigas per second, but here it's on a reasonable strong machine, but the machine not in the data center, but the machine belonging to one of our engineers, it's producing something like average 700 megagas per second. Now, the solo staking performance. So not only we are able to process blocks faster and better with lower latencies when we execute them on powerful machines, but it also means that the requirements from the nodes themselves are lower and lower for operating a single validator. And here I have an example of the Golem network testing execution of 100 validators. Actually they went further and run 200 validators on a single Raspberry Pi 5 machine. So suddenly solo staking is not that expensive as it used to be. And it's interesting because 4 or 5 years ago, we were saying that the Ethereum state will continue growing. It will be harder and harder to do the solo staking. It will be harder to operate a single machine. But the improvements on the algorithmic side and the improvements from the execution layer clients and the improvements to EVM allow us to actually run it on a smaller and smaller hardware, less expensive hardware, operating the validators at home. And I think we start to see the uptick in the solo staking numbers on Ethereum, also thanks to the incoming technologies. We use technologies from Nido and others on DVT. So it will be like SSV network and OBOL are, I think, the leading solutions, but there are a few more. And Lido is adopting that, and this leads to more and more solo stakers. And you see also like Rocket Pool improving a lot. So. Where else there is MEV? So MEV affects the L2 decentralization designs. So maybe if you've seen, oh, sorry, I thought it was the next slide, this one. If you've seen Vitalik writing recently, look, from next year, I stopped talking about any L2s that are no longer, that are not yet supporting the proper security measures. Not properly securing the assets that go to L2 as it should be in the rollup. So they really don't call themselves, let's let them not call themselves rollups if they are not executing all the properties, all the assumptions of a rollup. And because of that, people think about how to decentralize L2s. And when you start thinking about how to decentralize L2s, you have to ask lots of questions that normally you would ask for L1, because now the lots of trading activity moves to L2s. So you're asking questions about how MEV will affect our system if we centralize versus not, if we decentralize versus not. So think about operators like a single sequencer operated by the L2 foundation, L2 chain. And I think like the reputation at stake of the sequencer that comes from the foundation or comes from the core engineering team, it's too high to really play the MEV games. But if you want to decentralize it, or even more, make it permissionless, then you have to start allowing the other operators to come into the game. And the operators may be actually very happy to start thinking, well, why wouldn't I play the MEV game? Which means that the core engineers will have to think about MEV all the time as the main driver of the decision-making in how to design permissionlessness, the centralization, the sequencing, mempool designs for L2s. Now, it's not like suddenly we have a measure that forces us to decentralization. Previously, we didn't. And just before MEV, when we were thinking about decentralization, we were thinking more something like, what if a nation state attacks the chain? What if we are censored because someone tries to censor the political speech or activity of some of the rebels in the country? So somehow that's what I was thinking about when I was thinking about decentralization years ago when I was joining blockchain. I thought that blockchain protects us on the political side of decentralization. But MEV said that, look, you have something much simpler for many people that do with blockchain. You can simply start quantifying MEV as like decentralization as the amount of money that you can extract in the short term by censoring others. And all of that affects the decentralization designs. I'll speed up a bit. Okay, so like 1.5 years ago or so, we started this exploration of various design on L2s, how they can work in the formats of based proposer. So the proposer where the L1 block proposers are proposing the blocks on L2. So like it's in the case of Tyco Rollup. Then we looked at various like shared proposer setups, PBS in the context of PBS for L1, PBS on L2, PBS in the Arbitrum setup with the FCFS, how it can be proposed there, PBS in ZK rollups, in optimistic rollups, and so on. So it started a massive exploration of how we can push the L2s to decentralization because we wanted to address the questions of the searchers on how they'll be making money and will there be MEV left on the table in those L2s. So once again, MEV was driving much of the research. And this is research that's very often sponsored by highly well-capitalized entities within the like market makers, searchers, and financial institutions. And yeah, when we talk about scaling Ethereum and scaling Ethereum via L2s, look at this nice list of the L2s on top of Ethereum. The assets, total TVL, total value locked on all of those L2s. Growing, obviously, maybe after the last year, it stays more or less stable, but comparing to 2-3 years ago, it's growing substantially. And we have a lot of activity on the major L2s. Whatever you see on the top, I will still say that pay attention to Starknet. It's biased, but yeah, there's fantastic execution from Arbitrum Base, OP, other chains. We had Sandy talking about Scroll, and we're doing everything great for Starknet to keep jumping forward. This is that list that Vitalik is complaining about. Look, the L2B says we're no longer pretending. Let's find some metrics that will look very, very red for all the L2s. And drive that scaling in a proper way. So these are no longer centralized sequencers, and actually if you want to do the escape hatch, you can escape. If you want to escape censorship, you can escape censorship. It doesn't look best so far, but there's lots of promise that now when L2 is deployed, they launch tokens, they're happy to think of, all right, let's just make it so nobody complains anymore. What else comes to the L2s? Like when we think about what Justin Drake pushes a lot with the preconfirmations and sequencing calls, so preconfirmations leading to the base rollups proposal as the most L1 native approach to L2s, most aligned approach to L2s, base rollups, and base rollups answering question like, look, we produce the L2 blocks only at the rate of the L1 block every 12 seconds. How we can address it, we'll address it with preconfirmation. So you actually work in a different way. Somebody who sends transactions sends that to the sequencer or a gateway or some other operator. They send back information. I pre-confirm that this transaction of yours will be included in the next block. So almost like creating chunks of the blocks that are confirming and are slashable. Those are like slashable promises. And then if my transaction is pre-confirmed, I say, okay, that's great. I already have some confirmation. And if it doesn't happen, then I can slash whoever sent me that promise. So pre-confirmation work is also driven a lot by the MEV, the fact that the low latencies are expected in confirmation of transactions, that trading activity really doesn't work best if you have to have 12-second latencies. All of this would lead to the probably more powerful base rollup designs. And there is a working group in Ethereum around Commit Boost. Commit Boost designed as a public good with the funding from leading protocols on Ethereum and with the team, and actually collaboration of multiple teams, expanding the ideas from MEV Boost, or maybe like working around MEV Boost, Commit Boost, building pre-confirmations to the PBS design. Once again, protocol driven by the MEV requirements, MEV driving the research and coordination of the protocol improvements. What else MEV affects? Well, it does affect behavior of the validators in the L1 mainnet. So first of all, it affects geographic decentralization. And validators potentially aim at collocation with the signal. So what I say is, like, when you want to trade, then ideally the signal to the trade appears in a place in the world where you very quickly capture it, process it through your other market data, process it through your algorithm, and then you send it ideally to in a PBS mode to the local relay. And ideally the validators is also local to you. So you remove all the latencies of going around the globe. But you can think of the situations when the trading signal appears in New York versus Tokyo versus Europe, and the operator of the MEV searching operates from a different country, and the relays in a different country, and so on. So actually validators start to look at the setups and the tooling and the protocols that can speed up delivery of the signal, speed up delivery of the blocks to the validators, and having proper distribution. And then it may affect the geographical decentralization, because there might be a more of the push for the better MEV payouts rather than the security from anti-slashing, from removing the removing the correlations, because the correlations lead to correlated slashings, and those are some of the biggest risks within the operation of the validators. Also, the timing games is like delaying publishing the block just to extract more MEV from the block. Once again, you have the protocol that assumes that the block will be sent, distributed without the delay to collect attestations. But what validators would do often, they would delay that block by 1, 2, 3 seconds just to extract more MEV, and this becomes quite visible in the network. Further, MEV drives some of the EIP, like the deep protocol changes on the L1. So 7732 is the Enshrined PBS. So PBS that at the moment is outside of protocol as a sidecar is potentially coming to the main protocol design. And lots of conversation on this topic. There is also the breakout sessions that you can follow on YouTube. Geographical decentralization. So here, just to visualize that, here is where majority of the validators are operating from. So you see quite a lot of them in Europe and then in US, much less in Asia, but I think we put a lot of effort into educating in Asia and in other countries of like how to operate validators there, how to extract MEV locally. However, we will always be affected with the value of the signal, value of the economic signal for trading. Because very often you have this intertwined traditional finance and on-chain markets. So the signal appears in the traditional finance markets that drives later the trading on-chain. So the signal appears in the major financial markets in the world, which would be New York, London, Singapore, but actually probably like 70–80% it's all in US. The timing games, you see here the behaviors of different validators. The red color is when the blocks are being delayed and published with a significant delay. And let's talk also about two more things. So the MEV drives the censorship resistance designs. Once again, for this reason that I mentioned to you, it's not really censorship in the maybe political sense, but censorship in a sense of I compete with others for the money extraction, so I censor them. I may pay for not including the transactions, so I can include the transactions that will extract the value. So MEV drives the new ideas and massive research in the space of the censorship resistance implementations, and Fossil is the fork choice driven inclusion lists proposal that is now discussed in the last probably 4 weeks or so. You also have multiple concurrent proposers that you see as a proposal on Solana, and now driven also to Ethereum as one of the solutions. And well, I mentioned centralization. I'll show you 2 more boards quickly. So the big problem nowadays with PBS is it's centralizing with the block builders, a few major block builders producing a lot of blocks. So MEV does also drive the centralization of where the blocks are produced, because the value is extracted, the better and better builders are constructing better blocks and recycle that and then win more of the block space. Also, multi-block MEV discussions. I'll rush a bit now, but it's an interesting topic. Finally, we see some examples of multi-block MEV, which were not visible before. I encourage you to also read the Who Wins Ethereum block building auctions and why. Create analysis of all the behavior of the searchers and the block builders, and also categorization of various aspects of MEV. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you look at scaling Ethereum, scaling with MEV, through MEV, because of MEV. Thanks a lot.